So we're going to go ahead and do one recipe at a time. We're going to get this cooking and then we'll move into our next recipe. We're going to move backwards from the bottom of your recipe sheet up to the top, starting with the sloppy joes. All of our ingredients here for the sloppy joes are right here. So if you are chopping, I'm going to give an onion to you and an onion to you. Let me know if you have any issues with cutting or slicing, or if you are unfamiliar in any way of how to cut an onion. Because what I like to say when I'm teaching cooking is really there's no wrong way to cut an onion. Don't feel like you have to sit there and meticulously do your slices and cut it this way. You'll drive yourself nuts and you'll be afraid to get into the kitchen and you'll give up. So I don't want you to give up.
My only problem with onions is how do you stop from crying?
I wear sunglasses.
I've heard of about a half a dozen different tricks. Put a metal spoon on your tongue and have a metal spoon
That's a new one. Okay.
sticking out of your mouth. What I do, some people swear by that one. What I do, I literally, I run my knife under cold water. I do my chopping until it just starts to bother me. I run my knife under cold water again. It has something to do with the fumes. The cold water, not hot water, but cold water just seems to dampen those fumes. That's what works for me. Sometimes I have to do a quick rinse on the cutting board, and then I continue on. That's the best. But I've heard all kinds of weird things.
I've heard
Freezing the onion, freezing the knife.
But,
yeah.
Whoa.
Something to do with cold.
Okay.
Yeah. I've had hot water running because I'm doing dishes, and the hot water doesn't really work. All right, so we're going to get you guys chopping. You want to dice. So when you're doing a dice, is there anyone, does everyone here cook at home? Is anyone here completely unfamiliar with cooking at home? Believe me, do not be embarrassed, because you're the person that I love. You're the person I would come hug and be like, girlfriend, let's go. Okay, so a dice is about the size of, I'm going to say your pointer fingernail, which for all of us is a slightly different size. You may see, it's a medium dice. You may see in instructions dice or medium dice. If you see small dice, you can assume that it's closer to a mince, but really, there's no wrong way. What I would suggest for sloppy joe is a little on the smaller side, because you want to be able to spoon it and put it onto a roll. Anything larger would be more like a chili, and you kind of don't want that. So stay on the smaller side. For something where you're cooking your green onions, you don't necessarily have to remove the white membrane. It's not going to hurt anything. It just gives you a little bit more bulk, but absolutely feel free. So what I've chosen for our spices, in the recipe it calls for a chili powder. You can use any kind of chili powder, and what I always try to tell everybody is use what you have. I really want to encourage everyone to get back into the kitchen in some way. Don't feel as if you have to go out and spend a ton of money to get exactly the right ingredient for exactly what they're calling for. I want you to go and use what you have, and feel free to substitute, because it's probably going to be delicious. So I have chili powder, but instead I chose to use a chipotle chili powder to introduce the possibility, a little bit of smokiness, and also a little bit of smoked paprika, some mustard powder, and then of course some garlic powder right here. So I'm going to put all of these spices over by our cooking station. So we are doubling today's recipe, and one thing I want to emphasize, when you are doubling, tripling, or quadrupling any recipe, no matter what the recipe that you're doing, when it comes to hot peppers, black pepper, cayenne pepper, spicy pepper, jalapenos, anything like that, anything in that family at all, do not double it. So if your recipe for chili, whatever you're making, calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and you go to double or triple that for a crowd, do not put in a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, you will burn your face off. It will not be pleasant. Stick with a quarter teaspoon, and if you have to add a tiny bit more. So I have taken recipes from a single recipe that serves 4 to 6 people all the way up to an entire pot for 50 people. And I have taken cayenne pepper up to maybe 2 tablespoons for an entire pot. That it's like this, it's still too hot. So I've brought it back down to a teaspoon and then work my way in incrementally from there. So just to let you know, that's one of those unusual things with cooking to always keep in mind whenever you're cooking any recipe at all. So anything in that family at all. So here we have not doubled our spicy pepper at all. So we're going to go ahead and start cooking in here. Can we use up the canola oil that's in here and then get into our olive oil for once the onions and the peppers come over?
All right.
So, yep, here's our TVP. So our recipe calls for, I think, 1 1/4 cup of the TVP. Are you familiar with TVP?
No.
All right, guys, tell her what TVP is. It's cornflakes. Can anybody tell her what TVP is? Texturized vegetable protein.
Okay.
It was created in about the 60s, around about the time of the hippie movement. And it is basically soy beans that are pulverized into a flour. And then they're rehydrated and pushed through an extruder like hamburger. And then it's dried or baked and into these like little granola-looking, I don't know, cornflakes. Exactly. But it's crazy cheap. This is like $3. It expands. You can use it to extend anything. You can add it to anything that you already make, from eggplant dishes all the way to anything to extend it. And of course, it is wonderful by itself as a meat substitute. It has a wonderful texture, and it takes on the flavor of whatever that you put it with it. So I'm going to give that to you. Here's our measuring cup right here. And do you do a lot of cooking at home?
Yeah, I do.
Somewhat? Awesome. That's perfect. You're perfectly qualified. So here we go. I'll leave this over here for you. Yes. Okay, so here we go. This is so confusing. And it's that one. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it on to like medium high with the dual ring right there. All right, good to go. And you want to bring the peppers and the onions over. I'll move this out the way. And we're going to saute our onions. Thank you, guys. Our onions and our peppers in the oil over medium heat until they are translucent. So I guess we do set that aside for now. Our other ingredients are right over here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's this here sauce. One of the things to look out for in what's this here sauce is anchovies, so do watch out for that. This is certified vegan what's this here sauce. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it.
What do you call it?
What's this here? What's this here coffee? What's this here sauce? So this is vegan what's this here sauce and soy sauce. When you're doing anything Asian at all, that's another area to be super, super careful. When you're reading your ingredients, you really want to watch out for fish sauce. This is a standard ingredient in a lot of Asian things. So there are more and more Asian condiments coming out that are vegan friendly. So do keep your eye out for that. This is garlic. So I bought this on purpose because I just wanted to let you know, you can buy garlic like this. It makes it a lot easier. When you're somebody like me who uses so much garlic, it's insane. It just takes forever to constantly chop and peel and chop and peel. So I'll buy it in the bags or I'll buy it like this. And I try to go as fresh as possible. If you're buying garlic or prepared cilantro or prepared any of those herbs in the tubes, be very careful because there can be, if you're looking to watch out for milk, there can be milk and whey in those little tubes. So do be careful and watch your ingredients.
Do you know why that is?
Not a clue other than obviously everything boils down to money. Mm-hmm. So it's got to be an inexpensive way to preserve.
Yeah.
It has to have something to do with texture, preserving, and finances. was kind of what it must boil down to. But, and flavor, I'm sure, having to do with keeping the flavor as fresh as possible. Because when you are buying garlic like this, it can have a slightly different taste from fresh. But okay, so I'm going to bring this over for you, and we'll get things measured up. I'm going to give you an assistant. Would anyone like to be the assistant up front here? There you are. You're closest. You're closest, and you were smiling the largest. So there it is. All right, so you can help. Some of these are not. They're brand new, so you might have to open them up. So you guys can get started on that.
So the vegetables go first.
Yep, vegetables are the first. So now let's talk a little bit about sautéing vegetables until they're translucent. Here there are a couple of whys. The first thing is, don't fret if you get to a point where you've walked away and you come back and your vegetables are a little brown, you know, they've caramelized a little bit. Really, no big deal. It's not going to hurt anything. But there is a reason for sweating down your vegetables low and slow. That process creates umami, depth of flavor, a different flavor from the caramelization. That's a different umami. Ultimately, what you're going for in Sloppy Joe's is one big goulash mess. It doesn't matter. It's fine. So if you accidentally brown your vegetables here, it's not going to hurt anything. If in your refrigerator you have celery, you've got onions, you've got some parsnips you need to use up, use them. This is a perfect recipe for that. Use up whatever you have in the fridge for something like Sloppy Joe's. So these ladies are working on our Sloppy Joe's. All of your spices are pre-measured. This is a double recipe. So whatever it calls for here, double it. And I think I've already not doubled the chili powder.
Okay.
So you're good.
So this plate's good.
Yep, that plate's good. So we're going to move on while these ladies are working this recipe. We are going to move on to making our vegan ceviche. Okay, so this is very exciting. This is one of my favorite dishes, vegan or not. It matters not. This is a fabulous dish. Oh yes, thank you. Go ahead and clear and rinse your knives and your cutting boards. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get that started. So we have onion here and a couple of bowls right here. So again, here we're going for a very small dice. The largest, it's all been washed. Yes, I've washed everything for you. The largest item here is going to be the cauliflower, and this is what we're going to talk about in terms of mimicking the look and the size of the fish that we are replacing.
So ceviche, is that like, is it raw?
Ceviche is raw fish.
Okay.
But this is vegan ceviche. Well, obviously. That was a stupid thing to say, wasn't it? So, okay, great. We have a large bowl coming for you there. And tomatoes. Again, if you can, with our tomatoes, what I'm going to have you do is core. And I'm going to get you a plate. All right, so the important part of the ceviche is, and you guys are really right on cue. Have you had ceviche? No. You have not. So you are already familiar with the size that the cauliflower need to be. I'm going to reach in real quick with, so this is about the size that the cauliflower needs to be, and you're already right there. What I would normally do with a floret that looks like that is just break it into bits, like so. And I'll get you a bowl to put all your goodies in. Guys, what I'd like to just share with you, I'm all about respecting. Whenever we eat something, I feel very strongly, no matter what it is that we are eating, we are interrupting a life cycle. So I feel that we need to respect it. And for the lime, respecting the lime means to get every bit of essence out of the lime zest before we use the juice. So it almost seems criminal to get the juice out of a fresh lime without zesting it first. And if anyone wants to take the zest home for baking or whatever, putting on your salads, making dressing, please feel free. So I'm going to get you to zest these limes before we squeeze them. And has everyone here, or is anyone here not zested a lemon or a lime or an orange before? Never zested. Couple things to know about zesting. All of your oil and deliciousness are right here in all of the brilliant color of the fruit. Once you get into the white part, the pith, you're getting into a little bit of its protectiveness, so it's bitter. So you don't want too much of the pith. It's not going to kill you to have pith in there. So you're really just going for the part, the color, the colorful part. That's where all the oils and the deliciousness are. And of course, if you don't have time to mess with all of that, that wonderful deliciousness is available at 0 time in bottles. Price Right sells the lime on a regular basis. It can sometimes be available elsewhere and sometimes not. It can be hard to find lime juice like lemon juice. But Price Right does usually have it fairly inexpensively. The difference is that this can be a little bit more bitter, is not quite as bright. But I will oftentimes use this when limes are really expensive, when they're not in season. What is it when you're buying a jar of garlic and it asks in the recipe for a clove of garlic? 1 clove is 1 teaspoon of minced garlic. So even though cloves can be different sizes, basically that's your substitution. It's not too hot for you, is it? Do you need to turn that down a bit?
It's on medium.
Oh, yes.
Whenever you're ready.
She's good. She's on it.
I forgot what I'm cutting this for. So what sizes do you want?
It's for the ceviche.
Okay, so do you want it way smaller, like I did for the...
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, look at all of that wonderful zest piled up.
Yeah.
Yes!
Now you freeze this?
Yes.
Baggies?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can freeze your zest. I will take a regular sandwich bag, or if I have a whole lot of zest, or whatever it is that I'm doing, I'll do the same with garlic when I have a whole lot of garlic. And I'll put it through the food processor and put my minced garlic into a baggie and press it flat, and I'll lay it flat in the freezer and freeze it like that. Once it's frozen solid, then I can stack it, and my freezer is full of stacked items, and it's so easy like a book to pull it out, break off, because it's thin, because you made it thin. You just break off what you need for the recipe and toss it in and put it back, and it's like so convenient. So we have our tomatoes that I'm mixing. We've got acid in the tomato, and that will also help to break down the cauliflower. We have a little bit of jalapeno here. Has anyone here actually had actual ceviche? Okay. It's very bright. It's very limey. It's really something that's unforgettable, wonderfully delicious. We have our diced red onion. As far as onions go, guys, you can substitute. If you have white onion at home, that's fine. Just maybe use a little bit less, because the yellow onion is the strongest. Then you have your white onions, your Vidalia, your sweet onion. Then you have your red onion, and then you have your shallots. So you can do substitutions. Just be aware of sort of the up your nose level. And your green pepper. So I'm going to mix this in here first. And then we're going to go ahead and put it in the fridge for that short amount of time that it takes to make our tuna salad. But if you have the opportunity to make this up to a day ahead, as I was saying before, the lime pickle gives the cauliflower a little bit of time to break down. It softens the cauliflower. It's not so crunchy. It's less like a salad and more like the actual soft ceviche that we are. Yep, I'll get more lime juice. May I have the actual lime back there? And the cilantro.
We use regular tomatoes, right?
Yep.
Not the cherry ones.
You can use cherry tomatoes if you want. It's entirely up to you. Tomatoes are totally substitutable. You can make up a lot of words as we go along here. You can use yellow bell. You can use cherry. You can use heirloom. You can use Roma. You can use big boy. You can use whatever you want. Whatever is in season. Now, the reason everything is chopped like this is just it's a matter of toothsomeness. Now, that one actually is a word. So it's a matter of the chew, the texture, the bite. You want everything to be as pleasurable as possible, and it should all be around about the same size. That's the important thing when chopping for ceviche. You can chop your cilantro in there if you like. And then when that's done, go ahead and do about half of all of that cilantro. When that's done, just put it right into the refrigerator. We're going to go ahead and make our tuna salad. Has anyone here tried vegan tuna salad? Yeah, of course, you've probably had everything. If you do not have a food processor at home, there are a couple other, well, raise your hand if you do not have a food. Awesome. Couple different fun ways to do this. You can put these into a Ziploc bag, a gallon size, and you can smash it with the back of a spoon a little bit until everything's just sort of halfway smashed. That's one way. You could do it with your hands if you're really angry that day and have a little bit of therapy to do, like making bread and but that's another way you can do it. Or if you do have a mortar and pestle that's large enough, that's another way to do it. You're really only half smashing, so it's just not going to take that long. And you're just looking for something that's kind of crushed. Again, this is doubled. We need a little bit of mustard. Now, the vegan mayonnaise. My favorite is the grapeseed veganese, so I did pick up the grapeseed veganese. That has the orange lid, but any of the other veganese are fine to use as well. You can also make your own vegan mayonnaise. This is a situation where you use what you like best. So this is entirely up to you. This is my personal preference. So you can use, here's another situation where you can use pickled carrots, pickled asparagus, pickled vegetables of your choice. You can use a sweet pickle, pickled relish, pickled whatever. I'm trying to follow the recipe. It was very hard because my brain really wanted to get some really cool other vegetables in. But we're going to be traditional and go with the regular pickle. But an easy way, and you're standing right here, so I'll get you right on it. If you want to do 2 of those and just dice them up and add them right into our tuna salad right over there. This looks great. I love it.
I feel like otherwise you don't really make ceviche at home. It's kind of like intimidating, like scary to work with seafood.
Yeah.
So this is like great to do it yourself too.
It is, and everything's there. All the brightness, all the textures, the flavor, the smell, the feeling, it's all there. What the kelp powder is going to do is it's going to give you that sort of feeling of the sea. So this is tuna salad, so you don't want it to taste like chickpea salad. You want a little bit of feeling like the sea. So you get a little bit of something that is reminiscent of the sea. These are these wonderful roasted seaweed, and we're just going to break those up. When a recipe says to add salt and pepper to taste, I would start with a ½ teaspoon of salt and a ¼ teaspoon of pepper. It's a pretty easy, safe rule. And then usually you don't need to add more, but sometimes you do. But it's a good place to start. Really, eat this however you'd like to eat it, but I was thinking the tuna would do well with the celery. Ceviche, of course, on its own is great. I'm going to add a little bit more lime to the one. And that goes amazingly well with a little bit of the creamy avocado. So you have that contrast between the brightness and the acidity of the lime and a little bit of creamy avocado, just that wonderful texture and flavor. A little bit of leftovers, and then of course we have our vegan pretzel rolls, so yummy, yummy. This is awesome. All right, guys, here we go. Good job. Good job. Thank you. You won't miss the meat at all, and your body will thank you. All right, help yourselves.